is a race I must run. There are victories to be won. Give me power. There is a race.
There is a race that I must run. There are victories to be won. Give me power every hour to be true.
Oh, there is a race.
There is a race that I must run. There are victories to be won. Give me power every hour to be true.
Oh, there is a race.
There is a race that I
There is a
must run.
race.
There are
There are
victories to be
victories
won.
to be won.
Every hour to be true.
Oh, there is a race.
There is a race that I must run. There are
There are
victories to be
victories.
won.
Oh, give me power.
Every hour to be true.
Okay, let's just do this. Let's come on, come on. You need to do it with a swag. Okay, let's do it. Come on, come on, come on. Everybody has a race to run. Okay, let's start our race. Come on, everybody, join me as we do this. We'll do it. Keep on running. Come on, let's do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, go. Ta 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 ta, ta 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 ta, ta 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 ta, ta 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 ta, ta 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 ta. Oh, there is a race.
There is a race.
There is a race. There are victories. Oh, give me power every hour. Oh, there is a race.
There is a race.
There is a race. There are victories. Oh, give me power.
Every hour to be true.
There is a race you must run. There are victories you must win. Ask for power every hour to be true. I know there is a race that you must run. There are victories to be won. Pray for power every hour. There is a
There is
race.
a race that I must run. There are
There are victories
Give me power every hour.
every hour. I know there is a
There is a
race.
race that I must run.
Hey,
There are
there
victories
are victories. Oh, give me power.
every hour to be true.
There is a race. I need you to sing like you have a race. Come on. Let's do it one more time like we really mean it. Come on. Shh. Let's run the race now. Come on, come on, come on. Jesus, 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 Jesus. Come on! Run that race! Run that race!
The pay is awesome.
It allowed me Hello, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Footstep Show. My name is C, and I go by the name of Cecilia or C as well. So today we'll be having a meetup with our real estate broker. So please, we'll take a short break and we'll dive into the program. So we'll be right back. All right, so welcome back. If it's your first time joining us from YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, welcome to another episode of the Footstep Show. And my name is Cecilia, but I go by the name of C. Today we have our guest from Montreal, Canada, by the name of ODURO. He is a real estate agent broker. So we'll be talking about real estate things. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask it on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, and we'll be gladly happy to answer or to ask your questions to our real estate broker. So welcome, Mr. ODURO.
Thank you, Cecilia.
So how are you doing?
Nice day, nice weather.
Cool.
Thank God.
So yeah, I'm doing good. So what is the role of a real estate broker?
The role of a real estate broker. Thank you guys, the Footstep Show, for another opportunity. Last time we had a good show. The questions were very enlightening. So we'll dive into it, like you said. What is the role of a real estate broker like myself? My role is to represent you, the consumer, the buyer, or the seller, or the mortgage you're looking for financing, or you're looking for the house. So my role is to represent you, to be kind of your advocate, your spokesperson, to give you the information you need to make the right decisions. Because once you make a decision, you regret, you might be liable and responsible for it for the rest of your life. Some mistakes are very costful or very expensive. So my role as a broker is to guide you in the role of finance, in the role of the law, understand your rights, in the role of architecture, to understand what you're buying, question about quality, and again back to the finance, to make sure that you can afford what you're buying. You are buying within your echelon, your budget. You don't just buy a house for buying sake. So that is my role as a real estate broker. I represent you in these three fields: financial aspect, to make sure you're qualified, to make sure you can afford and pay what you want to buy, not buy the house and be doing 3 jobs to pay your mortgage. Also to make sure that you understand your right, the law. You know your right, and then you also know what you're responsible for. Don't just know your right, what you're also liable if you make a mistake. And the third part is to understand the structure of a house, architecturally and also, landscaping wise, to understand what entails, what makes a house value a certain price and another house value a lower value. So that's my role.
All right. So I know some people were asking, like, what is the difference between a real estate broker and a realtor?
Depends where you live. In Quebec, we call it a real estate broker, courtier immobilier. So maybe in the States, they use the term realtor. But I think we all come to the same business.
About 8 years ago, I've been in the field for about since '06. So yeah, 15 years ago. So about 8 years ago, the law changed. When you first finish the program, you become an agent, a real estate agent. And then after, I think back then, after 5 years in the field, you can improve, take some courses, and become a broker. Now the law has changed. So now, straight from the school, you become a real estate broker. So some of us who went through the hard rocks, the new ones coming in the business, they become automatically a broker. A broker means that you are responsible for yourself, meaning whatever decisions you make, if you make any mistakes or errors representing customers, you have insurance that covers you, which covers the customer. An agent, you normally need permission from, let's say, a boss or a broker like me. So an agent normally works for a broker who supervises their files. I don't have a supervision. I do my own business, but I still work under the certain banner. So that is a difference.
Steps in buying a property.
Can you repeat that? The line was slow.
Yes. Yeah, sorry. What are the steps in buying a property?
Steps involved in buying a property. Like I mentioned, when you call my number, I don't just, oh, Duro, I see this house online, I want to go visit. I don't just bring you on the road to go visit. First step is to get financially stable. So we go through your finance to make sure that you're qualified. Somebody said, I've been to the bank, I've been pre-approved. Pre-approved doesn't necessarily mean some banks, you talk to them verbally and it's based on your verbal confirmation, they also give you a verbal approval. A pre-approval is a written letter, which is, let's say, legally binding between you and the bank. But if you don't have a letter and the bank just tells you, we approve you this amount, go shopping and bring us the file, that is not approval. The time you come back, they might be asking you for more documentations. Your pay stub, how long you've been working, a letter of employment, notice of assessment, which is when you file your taxes, what the government returns back to you. En français, c'est avis de cotisation, both federal and Quebec level, provincial level. So when you call me, we sit down and do your financial analysis. What's your responsibility and what's your obligations and what's your taste? What do you want to buy if you can afford it? So I don't just bring you on the road and start shopping. We do your financial down payment. Why do you need a certain percentage as down payment? Why do you need 5% minimum? Why do you need 10%? Depends on the business. Are you self-employed or are you a salaried employee? All these plays a role. So I don't just bring you on the road and start shopping for houses. We sit down, we do your financial analysis. Once I'm satisfied that once you find a house, you get the mortgage, then we physically start moving to find a house. Now, location is location is location. That is the essence of real estate. Where do you want to live? Where do you want to raise your family? Are you a first-time buyer? Are you into the downtown style condo living, or you are more into the country, more relaxed? You know, do you like noise? You don't like noise. You like neighbors? You don't like neighbors. You want to be by yourself on a lot, which is a bungalows detached, or you don't mind having a common wall with a neighbor, which is a semi-detached, or you don't mind being stuck in the middle. These are the row houses or the townhouses, we call them. So there are different aspects which qualifies which area or what you want to buy as a consumer. 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. You want an open concept. You want a kitchen. How many bathrooms, powder rooms? These are all, I want a split level or I want a flat level bungalow. I have bad knees. I don't want to walk on stairs. Or I definitely want to see a view early in the morning, So these are all things we look at. Are you into investment or you are just buying a house? Investment means a property where you can rent one apartment or 2 apartments while you are still occupying it as an owner. Here we call it the duplexes and the triplexes. In Canada, other part of Canada, they have other names for it. But the basic point is a revenue property. So those are the 2 steps. The third step is that once we find the property, we make an offer on the property. And for the last I'll say 12 months. The bidding war that has been going on in Canada wide that has brought it into our province, Quebec. So people are even ridiculously paying over asking prices, which I don't recommend. So we don't buy with emotions. We buy with professional advice. If you a city evaluation of a property is about $400,000, and you go pay $600,000 for the property, see how much debt you're starting the property with. How long would your property value raise to the city value? Now, the city value doesn't mean what your property is worth, but it's an estimate based on your land, square foot, and what you have as a property, the number of rooms. So I advise you that this property is not worth the price. Now, if your emotions carries you away and you still want to pay for it, why not? You are the customer. But the goal of buying a property is to have equity, meaning have money grows in your house for you. If you sell it, you can put some money in your pocket. So when you started with a big debt, how long would it take you to grow that equity I'm talking about? So when you listen to your broker, you have good equity in your house, let's say in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years, when you decide to sell. So those are the 3 steps. The last step is once an offer is accepted. Based on my experience, I will advise you whether we should do an inspection. Every house below 5 years, meaning younger than 5 years, newer properties. In Quebec, the APCHQ, which is the Association Professionnelle des Contracteurs de Québec, APCHQ. You can Google them. Every property built by a contractor in Quebec is guaranteed for 5 years on any aspect of the house. Once the house hit 5 years, the guarantee goes on the seller, which is the owner of the property. Now, in Canada, in Quebec, let's say where we are, we say that the foundation, the roof, and the windows, and the sewage, these are the 4 factors we look at when we are looking at inspection. Now, an inspector doesn't break a wall or go, he just, visually inspect the property, which I can also do it for you based on my experience. So it's not every property that I will have you waste your money to inspect. Now, it's not that you have to listen to me. It's my advice. Inspection costs you about $600 to $650. That is the inspection fees. Once you inspect or you don't inspect, nowadays people are even buying houses without inspection, because when you put too many conditions on a property, you might lose it to the next neighbor. So people are buying houses blind. Let's put it this way. But that's why you need a broker to step in. If I advise you not to inspect and you go live in the house and there are problems, my license is at jeopardy. So I'll do whatever I can to either advise you to inspect the house, and you sign a document to confirm that Cujo said inspect the property, and you, Cecilia, said no, I'm okay with the property the way I saw it, or the other way around. After the inspection, if everything is well, then we go to the lawyer, and then you sign, who is the notary. You sign for the documents, and then happily you become a true homeowner. So these are the 4 steps. Financial, which we talk about your budget. The next step is location. We discuss your needs, your needs. And the third step is evaluating the property quality-wise, which is inspection. And the 4th step is that we go to the notary to do the deed of transfer, which is the ownership. Those are the 4 steps involved in real estate.
To know all these details, very insightful. At least, it's very interesting to know. Like, you need to know your location and what are the steps to do afterwards. So, how do you determine the value of an investment property?
Okay, when you say investment property, I'll assume that you're talking about duplex, because a regular home which you are occupying is not an investment property. An investment property is a property which you occupying as an owner, you can still rent a part of the property. So an investment yes. We look at construction value. Number 1, the square footage. The living square foot, which is the physical building itself, and your lot, which is the land, the square foot of the lot itself. And we base that on, is my house all vinyl? Vinyl is like these plastic membrane, which is mostly on the side because of the cold. Canada houses, 70% is all wood, and then it's covered outside by vinyl for the cold, to avoid the cold weather from infiltrating during the cold weathers. Now, if you have bricks, if you have stones, or it's all vinyl, that makes a difference in the evaluation of your property. Number of rooms you have compared to your neighbors, and exactly we do comparable analysis, meaning that in your street or in your neighborhood, what is the current value going on? How much is Mr. Joe Blow sold their property, and comparable to yours. So we always do comparable analysis in the market in your area. I cannot take a revenue property, let's say 2.5 in Cover 2, and compare it to a revenue property in LaSalle. It's not the same jurisdiction. So we take LaSalle and do the analysis in LaSalle. Why? Because the rent in LaSalle, rental value in LaSalle is not the same as Cover 2. Or the rental value in St. Michel is not the same as the rental value in NDG. Location, location, location. So these are what we use. Rental value count, the number of rooms count, and the rental, how fast you can rent the property. You don't want to buy a house and it's sitting there for weeks where nobody wants to come and live in it. The reason of buying a revenue property or an investment property is a rental income, because you alone cannot pay the mortgage. Because when we are qualifying you for a rental or an investment property, the rent is also used as part of your revenue to increase your purchase power. That is how the banks qualifies you. So if I'm qualifying you for a bungalow, it's different from qualifying you from an investment property. So the rent is very important.
All right, thank you. I thought that's good to know. I only thought that's only for all the houses, but I didn't know it was specific for investment property. That's great to know. So, what is the best real estate investment strategy for me, like for someone like myself or anybody else?
If you are a first-time buyer, you've never bought a house before, I would recommend, if you can, you have a family member who buy with you, who co-sign with you, save up the money. I always recommend minimum 5% down payment. Now, last time I spoke about CMHC. So those who don't know about it, you can read about, this is Canada alone. You can read about Canadian Mortgage Home Center, CMHC. It tells you why you need this kind of percentage down payment, 0% up to 20%. The more you put down, the lower the insurance premium by the government of Canada. So, how do you? What is the best strategy? Yeah, the best way for you to buy as a first-time buyer, my recommendation is to buy investments property, IA, also known as duplex or triplex. Why? Because let's say you are renting an apartment now, paying a 3-bedroom house is what, $1,200 a month. Okay, if you want to pay the same amount, it's possible when you buy an investment property. Why? Because in investment property, if you're lucky, a duplex with a bachelor, you can live there and still collect two revenues, two rents, which when you add it to your personal rent, you pay off the mortgage. And in some cases, you can even pocket some of it in your pocket. So if you can afford to pay a rent of $1,200 and your mortgage is, example, $2,500, $2,500, people get scared of $2,500. I cannot afford $2,500. But you are not paying the $2,500. Your goal is to find a down payment, which is an investment. So let's say a duplex of $700,000. I will need a minimum of 5%, which is $35,000. To be on the safe side, get $40,000 for notary fees, inspections, welcome taxes, and all these things. Once you have that, you are investing that. So if your monthly payment is $2,500 with the taxes, you are paying from your pocket, for example, $1,200, which you'll be paying anyways if you are not the owner of the property. So you pay $1,200, the balance $1,300. You have somebody living upstairs, for example, who might pay up to $800 to $900 for you. And then the bachelor, you'll be getting about $600, which in total gives you what? $1,500. You add it to your $1,200, you are above your mortgage. And you can be living there for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, and then we can move on and buy you your own bungalow. So a
Yeah.
first-time buyer,
Yeah.
I recommend that you buy an investments property. Again, the I cannot explain it within the last 2 minutes. Investments property has so many pros than cons. Taxation wise, and when you file your taxes at the end of the year, there are so many benefits. Those who have duplexes can tell you if they are doing it the right way. There's so many
Yeah.
benefits which the government allows you to claim in taxation. Why? Because you are giving somebody, what do we call it, a T4 at the end of the year, as a tenant to file their
Yeah.
taxes. I don't know. I don't know the name. I forgot the name. It's been a while. I'm not a landlord. So is it a T4 slip, or
I
the
think
papers we give it to tenants?
yeah, I think it's a T4 or I know the name. I forgot the name.
Whatever,
There's a name.
whatever your landlord gives you in December to go file your taxes with. Once you are doing that, you also have tax brackets. So let's say for tax, let me just brief it. For taxation purposes, whatever you're spending, your mortgage, your insurance, your city taxes, municipal taxes, all these things, repairs in the property, these are all tax
Yeah.
deductible as a revenue property. When it's a bungalow, you're living there alone. Most of these things are not tax deductible. So that is the advantage. So as a first-time buyer, my advice to you is that let's talk and then let's look into a revenue property if you can afford it.
All right. Thank you so much. So we'll take a short break and we'll be right back and we'll continue with our discussion. So we'll take a very short break.
Thank you.
So we'll take a short break. We'll be right back. All right, so welcome back to the Footstep Show. If it's your first time joining us, then I welcome you all. We are live on Facebook and on YouTube. And don't forget to invite your friends. If you have your questions, don't forget to send it to us on our Facebook and YouTube pages, and we'll be glad to read it to our guests. So welcome back, Mr. ODURO. So my next question will be, how do you find a profitable investment property?
Profitable investments property. I would say that, like I touched it on the previous question, you are in a profitable investments position if if at the end of the month you are not taking anything from your pocket as an investor. Example, if I buy a fourplex, let's use a Quebec term, a fourplex,
Yeah.
like a four apartment. Okay, if
Mm-hmm.
I buy a fourplex with my money, let's say down payment 5%. House is worth 800,000. I put my money
Yeah.
$40,000 as an
Yes.
investor, and my
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
mortgage is X. I'll buy the property if the rental value, which is the revenue coming in every month,
Yeah.
can offset my responsibility, meaning my mortgage. That is when you know you find at least that is a minimum. I will not buy a property where I'm putting my down payment, my own cash, and at the end of the month, I have to also supplement to pay it when I'm not living there.
Yeah. Yeah.
An investment property is, I'm not living in the property 90% of the time. I bought a property where I'm not physically living there, and the revenue, whether it's a commercial store or it's an apartment building, whatever the revenue, the rent or the income coming in every month should take care of the mortgage. That is when you know you have an investment property. So before you
Mm-hmm.
make an offer on a property, you should make sure that the rent, the revenue coming in can offset your monthly payment. That is when you know you are in a good case. When you are even lucky, sometimes you can have some leftovers and have it in your pocket as rent. Now the funny joke is that these beware when you are going to buy a property when it's fully empty. Let's say a 6 apartment unit, 6 flats, you are going to buy and it's fully empty. But on the listing, the broker has put, let's use the potential, okay? These are not actual rent. They put potential rent. That means I can
Yeah.
go to the dollar store, take a lease and fill it out and say, hey, this building, if you want to rent, you can rent it for $1,500. And then they will do the total for the annual revenue, and then you see a big amount. Oh, when I buy this, I can make $65,000 a year in revenue. Divided by 12, 65 divided by 12, you are above $3,000 per
Yeah.
month. Okay, so it's a good investment. It's
Mm-hmm.
empty. So the revenue you are looking at is potential. Doesn't mean they are really actual revenue compared to the one that the tenants are really there, and this is what they have been paying every month. Woe if you go buy such a property and you cannot rent at these
Yeah.
values which the broker promised that you can. Now it's not him promising you, that's what he says the market is. If you cannot rent these things, then you stuck with a property which you have to chop off from your pocket. And I know people who are stuck with properties like that. Once you do that, it's too late. That means you made a mad move. So whoever is renting an apartment, the owner you are renting from doesn't own the property. He
Yeah.
found a down payment. He has a cash 5% or 10%. He bought the property and he did the estimate that if you, the tenant now, and the other tenant add up every month, they pay their rent, he can able to pay the bank. So you guys are helping the owner to pay the bank. He doesn't really own the property. Or he owns it
Wow. Very.
because he's a landlord.
Oh, very interesting to know. So what happens if the
Yes.
person made a bad move? What would be their next choice of like what they have to do in order not to repeat it
Well,
again?
number one, if you would have called KWADWO, you wouldn't make that bad move. Number two,
Okay.
when you make the bad move, when you made that bad move, you stuck with it. I'm sorry to tell you, you stuck with it. So it's a hard lesson. Now, some lessons are very costly. Those will be one of them. So once you make a bad move there, you cannot go after the seller and says, hey, you lied to me that I can get $1,500 a month in this rent. You lied to me. Go to court. See you
Mm-hmm.
in court. Salut, bonjour. Once the transaction is done, it's done. When you talk to a broker, he does a market analysis. That's what I'm telling you. There's what we call potential rent and then actual
Mm-hmm.
rent. So the potential means potential. Means, hypothetical situations. Doesn't mean it's real. You stuck with it.
Great. Wow. So guys, don't make sure to contact a real estate broker to help you guys out because it's very important. So you don't do any mistakes that will like jeopardize your whole financial situation there. So can I begin in investing in real estate with no money?
Yeah, you can. Yes, you
And how is
can.
that
Give me a
possible?
second. Give me a
Okay.
second. Again, it all comes to the CMHC that I was talking about. This is my Bible I always walk around with. CMHC documents. Back in the days, I've had this for over 15 years. Okay? It's a small paper, but it's worth a lot. This document is now available online. You can go to CMHC, Canadian Mortgage Home Center. En français, c'est ACHL. ACHL. These are the government entity or the government agency. It's like Passport Canada. What do? They give you passport. Revenue Canada, what do? They make sure you do your taxes. CMHC Canada, what do? They make sure you are buying the mortgage, your mortgage that you're getting for your property, you're qualified, number one, and then you're not being scammed by the bank. Okay? Yes, you can buy a property with zero money down. Yes, you can. But the question is that when I'm reading this, I even stopped looking at the zero money down because, number one, I've never bought a house for anybody with zero money down. I won't do it. If you call me, I won't do it. You go find a broker who will do it. And again, they'll be scamming you. Okay? Let me ask you common sense. Why would a bank? What's a bank? My money, your money makes a bank. TD Bank, our money we save in there makes the bank. So why would a bank give you, me and Cecilia money to buy a property without any collateral? Collateral meaning any obligation, down payment from your side. When you look at these ratios on the CMHC, the CMHC basically insures every mortgage you get from the bank. Let me repeat that. CMHC, Canadian Mortgage Home Center, every mortgage. This is not mortgage insurance. People confuse these things. There is mortgage insurance, there's life insurance, there's disability insurance, there's car insurance, there is home insurance. This is not mortgage insurance. This is CMHC premium. So based on your down payment, the government of Canada will put a premium, which is equivalent to insurance, on your mortgage. So if Cecilia buys a house, for example, and she says, I don't want to put any money down, the insurance premium on CMHC is so huge, you rather go find something to put down. The minimum I always ask for is 5%, because at 5%, the insurance premium is 2.5%, 2.75%.
Okay.
2.75%. The higher you put, the lower the premium. You avoid CMHC if you can put down 20% of down payment. Now, me and you, or 95% of the population, we don't have 20% to put down as down payment. So we all fall into CMHC premium. Basically, what it does is that it's insuring you and also guaranteeing the bank that in case you default in your payment, they have to be some. That's why you don't see a lot of repossessions in Quebec because of these premiums. So you don't walk around on the street and see oh, Cecilia cannot pay her house, the bank has taken over the house. You don't see a lot of these things in Quebec or in Canada because of this CMS. In Canada, why? You don't see that because of this government agency that regulates your qualification. What is their job? They make sure that there are ratios you have to fall under. Ratios means that whatever you're making every month as a salaried employee, whatever you're making every month, there's a certain percentage, up to 39%, I think, if my memory is correct. 39% of your income should cover all your expenses. So we call that total debt ratio, TDS ratio. Go read about this on CMHC website. TDS and GDS, total debt ratios and gross debt ratios, meaning your mortgage, your cell phones, your debt, your line of credit, your car loans, you shouldn't surpass certain percentage. That is what CMHC is there for. So it's not the bank really approving you. All your mortgage's approval comes from these people. It's not the bank. Whoever is signing your mortgage at the bank, who is called the underwriter, needs a final approval from these people.
From these people. Okay.
The bank will only deal with you directly if you cough up 20% cash. Meaning, if you're buying a house of $500,000, you need $100,000. Now, if you can put the $100,000, the bank will deal with you directly. without these guys. Because when you default, the bank has what? $100,000 of your money. So they have nothing to
Yeah.
lose. Exactly.
Oh, that's great. Great to know that you need 20% to in order to get cash. Wow, that's really, really interesting to know. Is real estate investing easier if you already own a property?
Yes, it is. About six years ago, the law changed. Back a few years ago, I can buy two, three houses, four houses for you, Cecilia. All you need is 5% down payment. Now, at the time, the government stretched. When I say the government, the CMHC, they stretched the amortization. What is amortization? Is a number of years which the bank projects that you can finish paying off your property. We call that amortization. It used to be 25 years, always has been 25 years. A few years ago, 6, 5, 7 years ago, the CMHC changed it to 30 years. You can even go up to 40 years. The longer the years, the more interest you pay on your mortgage. But people fell for that because the longer the years, the lower your monthly payment is, which most consumers will fall for that. So CMAC found out that people were playing with the system. Some people had revenue property, let's say a duplex or triplex, and then they were already on a 25 years amortization, meaning they will finish paying off the house in 25 years. And then once the 40 years was introduced, they went to the bank and refinanced their property and stretched the number of years. What would that do? That will reduce their monthly payment lower. That means the rent they are collecting every month, they can pocket a lot in their pocket. That's number one. Number two, most of them also did cashback. What is cashback? You tell the bank that, oh, my house is now worth, I bought a house at 300,000. Now it's worth 500,000. Now I own about 250 on the property. So equity is about 250,000. That is the profit you have in the property. So you can tell the bank, hey, give me 150. They won't give you all the 250. Give me 150 cash. They will give it to you. By stretching the amortization to 40 years, you can cash out a lot of money. So people were doing that. They were cashing out a lot of cashbacks in their properties. So properties were there, physically worth about 500,000, but people own a lot of debt on the property. So the government found out people were playing with the system, and then they went back and switched from the 40 years to the 25 conventional one. So to answer your question, when you have a property, you already have a property. Once you have some equity in the property, meaning your value has grown, you bought a property at 300,000, for example. Today it's worth 500,000. You bought it at 300. You paid off every year. You've been paying off. So now you don't own 300. Let's say you own 250 or 240. Again, the example I gave earlier, your equity is 250. The 250, we can use that as a collateral to buy you a second property without you even cashing out. I have mortgage brokers, that is their job. They will use the equity you have in your house to buy you a second property without even you selling your house. So yes, once you have a property, it's easier to buy a second one. Again, speak to a real estate broker. It's possible.
Okay, all right. There's a question on Facebook. Must the real estate broker respect the desired location of the first-time home buyer?
Yeah, sure. I recommend, like I said, the first step is to work on your finance. Once we talk about your finance and I know that you're ready, you might think you're ready, but you might not be ready because you might not know certain things. So once I think you're ready and I have a letter from the bank, a real letter, a really contract letter that, oh, Cecilia can buy a property at this amount. Once we have that, we sit down and we talk about your location. Now, you might be blind and say you want to move to, I don't know, NDG for personal reasons. Okay, why do you want to move to NDG? Maybe you don't even know the types of properties in NDG. You heard about NDG or you like the lifestyle in NDG. So you want to live in NDG. Once we sit down in the office and I start showing you properties in NDG and I show you in NDG, 99% of the properties is investment property, meaning duplexes and triplexes. Is where you find bungalows in NDG. And the ones you are going to find, They are old houses, 1920s, which if it's not well maintained by the owner, you location because it's in NDG, the house price, the value has been buffoon, overblown because of
Over
NDG.
yeah.
So I will advise you that yes, you want to live in NDG, but the house you want to buy in NDG is not worth what you're paying for. If you
Yeah.
insist, you the customer always have the final say. My role is
Mm-hmm.
to advise you. If I advise you and you still insist you want to buy in Saint Michel, and I say, hey, Saint Michel, people who rent properties in Saint Michel, sometimes they will run away with your rent. You might be renting an apartment in Saint Michel. The next month you come, your tenant has run away. How are you going to find them?
Okay.
Do you know how to find tenants who have run away? Do you know the responsibility, what you have to go through to find a tenant who has run away? The cost, you rather let them go. I'm telling you based on experience and what I've done for people.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody run away, so there are areas where you know the demographic of citizens living there, and you want to
Yeah.
avoid these areas as a first-time buyer or as an investor. You might not know people living in DDO, but you want to buy a townhouse in DDO, let's say around Sunnybrook. I'll give you the demographics. It's all walks of people. DDO,
Yeah.
Sunnybrook area, everybody lives there. You have blacks, white, Indian, Chinese, all Africans, everybody lives there. But you want to go live somewhere in Westmount. I'll tell you who lives in Westmount. You might not be comfortable in the morning walking on the street,
Yeah.
and
That's
you have
true.
paid for your property. So these are, you want to go live in Kodenesh. Okay, I'll tell you where in Kodenesh. Mackenzie, I'll tell you, you wake up in the morning, this is what you expect on Mackenzie Street in Kodenesh. Do you want to wake up with your kids on Mackenzie Street with all the noise and people hanging around in the corner holding the liquor bottles? You might not know, but you want to live in Mackenzie in Kodenesh. So I will tell you these things. If you insist you still want to live there, I'll buy you the property. So yes,
Oh,
you have the final say. My role is to advise, but the final say will be you.
okay. All right. Great. 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 Thank you so much. How will you determine the rent to charge for your own property?
Okay, this is a funny story. I had a customer who African, and they bought the property in LaSalle, for example.
Okay. Okay.
The tenant has been living there for 16 years. I'm giving you as an example, so you know. Tenants has been living there for 16 years. Number one, they've been staying there long, so that means they don't want to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
LaSalle, 5.5, 3 bedrooms, is rent upstairs is rented between $950 to $1,000. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
the tenant was paying $650, so $300, $250 difference in rent.
Yeah. Difference
So
there.
my customer who bought the property, there are loopholes in the system. Okay, so I gave them an idea what to do once they bought the property. An African man with a mentality, he bought the property and he just went to the tenant, hey, I'm the new owner. From now, you're going to pay this amount. What do you think the tenant do? He slammed the door in his face.
Please.
You, the tenant, doesn't, you, the landlord, doesn't determine the value of your rent. Yes, you can put
Yeah.
gold. You can say you painted the house with gold. You can say my countertops is all granite, whatever. Okay, that
Granted.
is you. If somebody want to pay for that, fine. But if there's a history, a tenant is already in the building, it's different from when the building is empty. If there's nobody in the building, you can choose whatever you want to rent. If somebody want to pay
Yeah.
for it, fine. But if you buy a property and the tenant is already there, you cannot just go to the tenant in this example I gave you and say, hey, I'm the new owner now. There's a new chef in town. You are going to pay me $900 instead of your $650. The guy slammed the door in
650.
his face. Oh, he lost his mind. He called me back. I said, what did I told you? Do this, do this, do this. He didn't do. Now he started, quarreling and beefing with the tenant until he gets legal issues. Police got involved. I
Wow.
got a phone call from the wife. The man was arrested in his own house, handcuffed, sitting in the back of a police patrol car because he was disturbing his tenants. Tenants have rights as much as you, the landlord, have rights. Those who don't know their rights, you can bully them. But those who know their right is to pay their rent. Your right is to
Yeah.
keep the building in a livable condition. These are the responsibility of both of you. You don't have to talk to each other. You don't have to like each other. But these are your responsibility as tenant and landlord. The rental board, Régie des Logements du Québec, they determine annual percentage increments. When you go on the website, if I'm charging you $700 a month, next year I cannot tell you I painted the room, so pay me $800. No, that's not how it works. You have to go and look on the rental board website and justify the reason you want to increase the rent. If your tenant knows the risk, right, he can go and tell you, hey, on the rental board it says this year, 2020, you can increase it by 3% or by 5%. So it's some percentage issue. And even the increment is based on what you, the landlord, has done inside the apartment. If you haven't done anything, you cannot take the maximum of the rental board recommendation. You can say, oh, the rental board says you can charge up to 5% increment. The tenant will tell you, I'll pay only 2% because you haven't done jack in my house. And if you don't agree, bring him to court. And 99% of the time, tenants win their cases in court.
Yeah.
Because the judge feels like tenants are being bullied, and landlords are taking advantage of people who don't know their rights. So if you're a landlord, do not bully your tenants. They are tenants, they are not your slaves. So know your rights, and they also know their right. Their right is to pay their rent. Once they don't owe you rent, do not jeopardize on their freedom.
Interesting.
So you don't determine how much you want to rent. If it's empty, you could put $1 million. I want to rent my apartment, Airbnb. But if somebody's living there and you buy the place, you don't determine how much you want to raise it at. No, you have to follow the rental board echelon, annual increases.
Great to know. Very insightful. So how do you find the right tenant for your rental property? Because I know there's a lot right now, like they do some credit check to make sure they have a good credit before they can accept. So there's a lot going on right now with that.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, you cannot. There's no rule. Doing a credit check doesn't mean anything. I have bad tenants. I've gone through bad tenants. I had 2 bad tenants. Somebody came to rent my place, a young girl working at Jankutu. I felt bad for her, a single mother. I gave her a 3-bedroom apartment to rent at $750. 2 months later, when I went to collect the rent, he was there with a boyfriend. You cannot kick him out. That was a trick they used. They used a girl to come to, he's not a tenant. He's the one living there for free. So you cannot. Now, if you set the rules, no smoking, no pets, no dogs, no this, no that, that is something they have to follow. But you cannot say, these days somebody can use a PDF writer and send you a fake pay stub. What are you going to do? He can use a friend and say he's my boss and call the number, and they'll say, oh, they're a good worker. They've been working here for 20 years. What are you going to do? That is a referral. You can call Equifax and pay $20. Doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. So you just go by your own referral. You want a good tenant? Speak to people. Somebody, having a building here. Especially when you have good tenant and you have good relationship. If they want to leave, they can even. I had building where somebody was leaving and they brought their sister-in-law to live there because I had a good relationship with them. When the sister-in-law was leaving, she also brought her best friend to live there. See what I mean? If you have those referrals, that is the best way. Credit check and all these nonsense don't mean nothing. You could do a credit check. I knew a customer, this is personally at home. The lady came with a paycheck that she's a professor at Concordia. Pay stub as a teacher, computer science professor at Concordia University. Who doesn't want such a tenant? It turned out she was on welfare. The pay stub was fake. She came and lived there for 5 months and then she ran away to Ottawa. Exactly. Especially these ones who pay online. They pay you 3 months in advance or they pay you 2 months in advance and it's e-transfer. That means you, the landlord, if you don't live, let's say in the building, you physically doesn't go there. So what they are doing to your building, you don't even know. They ran away, and before the tenant find out, the whole countertop was full of guinea worms and all this crawling stuff. It cost about $3,000 just to clean the apartment. Yeah. So there's no magic wand to find good tenants. Speak, communicate. These days you have Facebook. You can put it Black People Meet or your friends on Facebook. You put it there looking for good tenants. Somebody will refer people to you. That is how the best way. I don't believe in finding a hypothetical tenant on Kijiji and then do credit check. They could tell you whatever you want to tell. They will tell you they are the cousin or the president of Africa. What are you gonna do? Yeah.
But is there a reason why people do credit check before they accept? Like, do you have like an idea of why they do that?
They want to know you are responsible. They want to know you work. They want to know. I don't need credit check to find out you're responsible. I can. Let's say you run away from me. You run away from you. I rented an apartment to you and you ran away. It doesn't go on your credit. It doesn't go on your credit. Only the rental board. If I report you to the rental board that this person, I'm looking for this person. Now, like I told you, it's not easy to find people. You have to go find a bailiff. When you go to rental board, they have to when you bring, maybe you never brought somebody to court. When I bring you, Cecilia, to court, and I'm suing you, I need to find your address, Otherwise, the court will not take my case. Because they need to know where to send the letter to you. They are not the one going to look for you. I have to do that job and say Cecilia lives at this address or she works at this address. So I'm suing her. So bring the letter to this address. But you ran away from my building. I don't even know where you went. For me to find you, I have to get a bailiff. For me to get the bailiff, I have to get a court judgment from the court, from the rental board that, you ran away, you destroy my apartment, you owe me 3 months rent. Before the bailiff can have that letter to legally find you, a bailiff will charge you between $300 to $600 to find you.
Wow.
Yes. And finding you is not even the end of the case. They have to find you, serve you, physically serve you. And once they serve you, you have to show up in court. Those who know their right, they will never show up in court. And you cannot physically force them. So bad credit, rental board issues doesn't really go to Equifax or TransUnion and all these things. So the credit check for rental issues, I think is a waste of your money.
Well, great to know all these. Very interesting to know.
Good credit. If I have good credit, let's say, just to pass it in, if I pay my credit card, if I pay my FIDO, if I pay my line of credit, it shows in my credit score that I have good credit. Yeah. That is what you are going to see. That if I pay my FIDO, doesn't mean I'm going to pay my rent.
Yeah, true.
How does that justify that I'm a good tenant? I'm a good phone. I pay my phone. Yes, I pay my phone. It doesn't mean I will pay you rent. People fall for that, and they run away after 3 months. So I rather Cecilia or somebody refer me and say, there's a girl at my work looking for a place to rent. Okay, I have a 4.5. I have this. Come and look. That is a referral. Referral. I prefer that than giving it to going and pay for credit scoring and all this stuff to find somebody. They are the ones who run away because they will present you with exactly what you want. The job letter, the fake pay stubs, you can get all those things online. People pay for that. $100.
Wow, great. So I know you touched base on that already. Just to repeat, do I need a home inspection? I know you did touch that on in the beginning, but if you can just restate it again about like getting a home inspection.
The law is that what I see, I like, I buy. We understand each other. I saw. Yeah. Obviously, you will never buy a house unless you see it. I came to see. Mm-hmm. I like what I see physically because you cannot break a wall. So I like what I saw, so I bought it. Now, like I said, every house built in Quebec, I'm talking about Quebec because my license is for Quebec. Okay? I don't go in Ontario. So Quebec. The government has this construction agency, APCHQ, Association Professionnelle des Contracteurs du Québec. Every house built has a licensed contractor, unless the person build the house himself. Okay, if you can build your own house if you want, if you know how to. But if you are buying somebody's house which has been built by a contractor, the house is guaranteed for 5 years. 5 years on anything on the house. Once the 5 years expires, you have a document in your hand. When you go to the notary, this document is given to you by the contractor. Once the 5 year expires, the guarantee comes from the owner, which is become the seller who is selling you the house. So let's say a house of 2016 just expired. The 5 years just expired. But with my experience, if I'm buying a 2016 house, it's new. The major factors we look in a house is the roof, foundation, the windows, and the sewage. Cosmetics inside the house, that one is based on the person's own personal taste. Is the paint in the house and the electrical lights and all these things, chandelier and all this, has nothing to do with the quality of the building. You can change the chandelier, but you can't change a foundation. You can repair a foundation. You cannot change your foundation. You can repair a roof, but you cannot change the roof. The existing roof itself, you can't change it. You can repair it, remove the shingles and put new ones. So these are the 5 factors we look. And based on experience, a roof, which is shingles, meaning that it's a slope roof, it's not flat. Okay, a slope roof lasts normally 20 years minimum before you see evidence of deterioration, which means evidence of there is a leakage, and then you have to do you have to repair the roof. You don't change the roof, you repair the roof. Okay, 20 years. So a house that has been built 5 years ago, the roof has what, 10 to 15 years left on the roof. The windows, if it's new, a house built 2016, the windows are still practically new. Windows last between 10 to 15 years. Windows.
Yeah.
Before the vacuum, which is the air that compresses between the outside air and the indoor air, start to get loose, so you can have cold air coming in, let's say in the winter time.
Okay.
So windows last between 10 to 15 years. A foundation is solid. And again, with the new construction these days, there will be no sewage backup. So based on my experience, any house less than 10 years, I will not tell you to inspect. It's my recommendation. I will say, oh, this house is practically new. If you bring an inspector, and I've been doing for 15 years, I can give you a visual inspection, which is what the inspector is going to do anyways. Inspector doesn't break a wall. He casse pas le mur. The inspector doesn't break a wall. He doesn't go on the roof and remove shingles. He doesn't go in a sewage and see what is in the gutter. No, he doesn't. He does a visual check, which is the same thing you can do and I can do, or your friend can do with you. But if the house is, let's say, over 20 years old, 15 years old, then it becomes iffy, because at that time, like I said, the windows might be getting to the end of its life cycle. The roof might be getting to the end of its cycle. So a 20-year-old house, definitely I'm going to recommend for you to inspect. Now it's a choice. You could say, no, I don't want to inspect. If you don't inspect, it doesn't mean that the seller is free, or it doesn't mean that you are buying garbage. This is the law. I see, I like, I buy. Now, the owner can say we have 2 things. Latent defect. Latent defect. I know the thing exists. I didn't tell you. I know, but I know it exists. Nowadays, when we're about to sell your house, we have something you, the seller, will declare. We call it a seller's declaration. Like you are swearing an oath that I'm telling the truth, nothing but the truth. Whatever I know about my property, I'm telling the truth. This form, I have a copy of it, that you are telling the truth about all these things. So when it becomes legal issues, let's say you lie to us, we come to your kitchen and there is mold and you have painted the whole kitchen. It smells nice. Everybody likes something fresh, but there is mold in the house, because you know what causes mold? When there is not enough insulation between the outside wall and the inside wall. That means you have water condensation inside, or mostly in the basement, when there's not fresh air circulating in the basement. So most people, I advise people to always open your windows Stop always relying on air conditioning. Air conditioning doesn't really bring fresh air. It's recycling air. It brings a percentage of fresh air inside and recycles some of the old ones. Because when it brings out 100%, it's only the hospitals that recycles 100% and takes out 100% of the indoor. But for your home, it recycles a percentage of it. Otherwise, you pay a lot of hydro heating. So open your windows, let the building breathe. A building need to breathe a lot. These are buildings that doesn't breathe, which people don't always close the doors. That's where you get the mold and all these air bad odor in your basement or in your attic, which eventually becomes mold, which is very toxic for your health. So you not inspecting a house doesn't mean the person selling the house is not responsible. When you go to court, the judge will ask you, did you use a broker? Yes. No. If you say no, the judge will tell you, based on my experience, you bought the house, you're happy with it. Sorry, you should have used a broker. You make that decision on your own. So the judge will not take the sellers, they will not even continue the case based on what I've been through with certain tenants. Okay. Now, when you tell the judge you use a broker, and then they will come to me, the consumer, you will not talk anymore. They talk to me. And professionally, I will explain why I advise you not to inspect, or I advise you to inspect. If we didn't inspect, this is what we saw. Now, again, the seller will tell you, yes, you didn't inspect, so you bought what you want to buy, and then you stuck with it. No, it doesn't work like that. The only house, somebody will tell you, I'm selling my house with no warranty. We call it legal warranty, okay? I'm selling my house with no legal warranty. The only person who can sell the house without any legal warranty is when there's a succession. The owner of the house is dead, and there's the family or the estate is selling the property. You, the individual, whether you are divorcing, whether you are separating, whether it's girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever you are selling the property. You can even list on it. You can write on it, I'm selling my house with no legal warranty, and I'm going to buy the house. But I can still sue you.
Wow.
Saying that, okay, a house is not like a car that you're saying, this is the mileage and this is it, so you are buying it, buy it as it is, buy it at your own risk, salut, bonjour, I'm giving you. No, it doesn't work like that. No. Again, like I said previously, if you knew about the problem or you didn't know about the problem, you are the owner. You are still responsible for it. There is hidden defect. Hidden. Hidden defect. That means I knew about it and I didn't tell you about it. That is hidden. Hidden defect. When it comes that case, you are still responsible. Latent defect. I didn't know about it, but it existed in my house. There is a lot of mice in my house. I didn't know about it. But now we know. Even though you didn't know about it, now we know that it existed before. You understand? You, the seller, you are still responsible. Only when you use a broker. When you go to this Dupropio and all this buy without agent stuff, you buy it at your own risk. It's the seller who is enjoying their money. You, the buyer, you are stuck with it. And speak to people who are stuck with houses. They will tell you the problem they're going through.
Wow.
Again, if I advise you against the legal norms, every real estate broker has a liability insurance. We are insured up to 1 million. And nobody has ever claimed under my name. That tells you I'm doing a good job. So if I do something bad, you can sue me, ODURO. My agency is certain. You sue certain. It will go to the real estate board. They will go through the papers and see the mistakes I did. Why I didn't do X, Y, Z. And then you, the consumer, you never lose. Somebody has to pay the mistake. It's either the seller is going to pay for that mistake or me, I'm going to pay for that mistake. You, the consumer, you will never lose.
Wow, very insightful, very insightful. Thank you so much. We'll take a short break and then you give us your last comment and then we'll call it for a day. So we'll take a very short break. All right, so welcome back. Thank you so much. On behalf of the Footstep Show, I want to say thank you so much to our guest, Mr. KWADWO. So please, any last thought before we end?
Last thoughts. It's called ODURO for all your real estate needs. Um, see, I think Cecilia will give my number, or should I put my number out?
Oh, you can put your number up there.
My number is 514-575-3315. I've been with Sutton for the last 15 years. I don't move around, jumping from company to company. I'm happy with Sutton because we are honest and productive agency. We represent both buyers and sellers. My last word is that be well informed. Be well informed. Be well informed. Is the apart from your family, like I always said, is the most expensive decision you ever made. So make sure you don't regret. People who regret it, they know. And these mistakes, you cannot. Some doesn't recover it. Some are stuck with it. And experience is the best teacher, like they always say. But some experience are very costly. So get to know your people who speak your language, people you see every day, not the ones you just do a transaction with you and then you never meet them again. So deal with people you trust, real estate. Again, I would say we are very professional. People I work with. Sometimes we scared people talk about people business. We are very professional. I don't even want to bring your mind there. We are very professional people, and I live on referrals. I don't advertise myself. People talk about me. So if people are talking about me, that means I'm doing a good job. So get informed, get financially stable before you make the decision, and do not rent. Do not be scared what people say. It's not easy to own a house. It's very hectic, but they are still owning their house. Have you seen anybody say it's not easy to own a house and they've sold their house and they're back to apartment? No. They tell you it's not easy, but they are still owners. So
Yeah.
I would advise you to go buy. If you haven't bought one, buy. If you have bought one, let's talk and see how we can have your property work for you. You shouldn't work for your property. The property you have should rather work for you. It's a it's a word to the wise. I'm trying to talk to you. So if you understand what I mean, if you're a homeowner, you should know what I mean by that. If you have your property more than 10 years, you have enough equity to do whatever you want to do. So let's talk. If you haven't bought a property before, it's never too late. I work with financial planners. I work with mortgage brokers. We can help you save. Saving the down payment is always a problem. People are not disciplined. They get a big check, but they don't see where the check goes. There's always funerals, there's always weddings, there's always gifts, there's always new shoes, new clothes to buy. But if you work with financial planners, we'll help you save the money you need. When you understand taxation system in Canada, you can use the system to save your money. There is a way. So that is my last word.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. On behalf of the Footsteps, I want to say thank you so much to accept our call again for us to discuss. I would like to give a shout out to my aunt, Auntie Ivy. She's watching me all the way from United States of America. Thank you so much for watching me. And also my brother from Ghana, Francis Clement. Thank you so much for watching us today to learn so much. So we'll see each other again in 2 weeks' time. Uh, actually, next month, October 2nd. So have a great night, have a nice weekend, and have a blissful week.